Children are going to have now he's dead is significantly different from the life that they had when he was alive.
By virtue of their name, the Jackson children are going to be celebrities for life. They will be watched, they will be asked about, paparazzi will follow them, and we're going to be wanting to know how they're doing for years.
But what about the money? In the first month and a half after Jackson's death, the pop singer's estate earned more than $100 million, nearly double the amount earned in 2008.
A lot of people say he's worth a lot more dead than alive.
People clamored to get hold of anything they could that was related to him. His music went to the top of the charts. His autobiography is going to be re-released, and the footage from his rehearsals has been sold at a huge amount of money.
He could be worth $2 billion in the not-so-distant future.
Still, Jackson was reported to be heavily in debt before he died.
Michael, what'd you get?
Some nice things.
His Neverland had gone into foreclosure. He borrowed so much over the years to fund his extravagant lifestyle.
There's a source that I've spoken to that puts his value at about $1.2 billion when he died. He did have outstanding debts. He had a lot of outstanding debts, but it wasn't because he couldn't really afford to pay them. It was because, for some reason, Michael Jackson was just very bad at paying his bills. He just was.
In late August, 2 months after the King of Pop's death, the LA coroner confirmed that Jackson died of acute propofol intoxication, combined with the sedative lorazepam. The death was ruled a homicide.
Sources told me that the private pathologist's findings are consistent with the findings of the LA County coroner's investigation.
Plans are in place to lay Jackson to rest on September 3rd in Glendale, California.
Thank God he had so much music that was popular, and people have good thoughts through his music.
I'm sure we haven't heard the last of this ever unfolding story of a tragic superstar. Be sure to stick with E! News for the very latest. I'm Juliana Rancic, and we will see you next time.
We have a gentleman here that needs help, and he's not breathing yet. He's not breathing, and we're trying to pump him, but he's not.
He's unconscious, he's not breathing?
He's not conscious, sir.
Okay. We're already on our way.
He's pumping his chest, but he's not responding to anything, sir. Please.
At approximately 1:14 p.m., a team of doctors, including emergency physicians and cardiologists, attempted to resuscitate him for a period of more than 1 hour, and they were unsuccessful. And may Allah be with you, Michael, always. Love you.
Unfortunately, I never got to meet him in person. This has got to be the worst day of my life right now. Big loss. A big loss. Despite everything they say, it's not true. We love him. We love him dearly.
Within hours of the shocking news, Jackson's albums filled the top 15 slots on the Amazon.com bestseller list. Tragically, Michael had been preparing for a series of sold-out arena concerts in London that grossed more than $85 million in ticket sales.
This is it.
The shows scheduled to start in less than 3 weeks were part of a planned comeback for the King of Pop that included a 3-year world tour, a new album, a museum, and even a Michael Jackson casino.
This is it. I mean, this is really it. This is the final curtain call.
Nearly all of Michael Jackson's life was played out in public. A combination of enormous creative success mixed with extreme and bizarre behavior. His incredible life story began in an America very different from today.
There were places that blacks could not frequent. You could not go and swim at Marquette Park, which is in the Miller section of Gary. You could not go to certain restaurants.
But on the airwaves, black music ruled.
Music had taken a front position in the culture of of black people and of this nation. And so people were really into music.
The major radio station, WWCA, was the influence, the dominant influence in Gary from the late 50s through the 60s. They had many R&B stars, the Spaniels, Gladys Knight and the Pips.
In the Jackson household, music was a major inspiration. Catherine and Joseph Jackson lived in a tiny 4-room home on Jackson Street with their 6 kids, Rebe, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, LaToya, and Marlon. On August 29, 1958, Michael made his debut. Catherine, a devout Jehovah's Witness, took care of the children while Joseph worked in the steel mills. By 1961, the family had another mouth to feed, baby Randy.
My friend that worked with Joe Jackson told me Joe would come to work with no heels on his shoes. Literally. Tears in his jacket and no lunch. Co-workers would share their lunches with him. That's how rough he had it.
At home, Joe Jackson worked on a plan to get his family out of poverty and away from Gary, Indiana. Catherine taught the children music. Joe, who led his own doo-wop group, groomed his kids for the stage.
Joe Jackson was the true stage father. He controlled what they did, what they dressed, how they dressed, what they sang, their rehearsal schedule. And his dream and his hope was always to see that group, his family, take off. And he would do anything that he could to further that ambition.
No one loved to perform more than Michael. By the age of 5, he already wanted to be the star of the show.
The kindergarten teacher came to me and said, "You know, I have a little boy in the class who is just insisting that he sing the Christmas song to his class." He was insisting that that whole show revolve around him.
Joe managed to get the brothers into local talent shows.
Joe was right out there in front, and he was pushing his children, and he had them perform wherever anyone would let them.
Michael was such a handsome little kid, had so much personality, and so he was, and he had such a tremendous voice that I think that every young lady from any age, maybe 5 on up, was in love with him, you know, not in a sexual sense, but loved him.
In 1966, Joe and Catherine welcomed their 3rd daughter and 9th child, Janet. That same year, the Jackson boys performed in nightclubs and even strip joints. A local talent agent suggested the name the Jackson 5, and it stuck.
When they were out on these night programs, nightclubs and so forth and so on, they never discussed it with anyone. They were very close.
The boys adored their mother. They tried to shield Catherine from the realities of life away from home.
On the road, they were playing strip clubs, and they were seeing Joseph being flirtatious with women and perhaps having affairs with women. Then they would come home to their mother, who was a Jehovah's Witness, and they were being taught other values. And for these kids, especially Michael, to keep those kinds of secrets from their beloved mother was very, very emotionally damaging, I think.
For Dad, the Jackson 5 provided a ticket out of Gary and into the big time. Joe rehearsed the kids every spare minute. His other sons toughed it out, but little Michael was sensitive and frail.
Joseph used to single Michael out, and he would say things like, you know, do it like Michael. He would tell the brothers, especially Marlon, who was having a hard time, you need to do this like Michael, you need to be like Michael. And this put a lot of pressure on Michael. That, compounded by the fact that when Michael didn't do it right, he would be whooped by Joseph.
Joseph Jackson has denied beating his children. By the late 1970s, Michael began to tell friends like actress Jane Fonda his version of what happened.
It was very traumatic living in his household. They were terrified of the father. When they would hear him coming home, they would all run to their rooms and lock the door. Michael's like a harp string. He is so sensitive and vulnerable. Every breath of wind that hits him reverberates in sensitivity.
Babies are born with a temperament and a feeling of being more or less sensitive to some degree, but
Largely, it has to do with how much pain you experience yourself and how early you experience it.